The NL Central has been a weird division this year, to say the least. And at the top of this division is the Milwaukee Brewers. Sitting at 81-64 with a 4-game lead over the Cubs, the Brewers are in a good spot to win the division and head into the playoffs here at the end of the season. But in such a topsy-turvy division, and after making some confusing moves over the last year or so, it's been hard to nail down exactly what this Brewers team is. As clearly the weakest division leader in the National League, Milwaukee isn't expected to compete with teams like the Braves or the Dodgers to make a real run at the World Series. But what can we actually expect from them? And if they're gonna make a playoff run, how are they going to do this? So let's take a look at the Brewers' biggest strengths that have carried them to their success so far, how dominant this part of their game has actually been, and whether or not this is going to be enough to cover up their biggest weakness. And as we get into this, if you're enjoying the content, please go ahead and like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications to make sure you don't miss out on any baseball content like this going forward. Arguably the most important part of this Brewers team this season has been the starting rotation that's thrown the 6th most innings of any rotation so far, with the 7th best ERA and the 4th best ERA minus. These guys have done a fantastic job of keeping runs from crossing the plate, and that's the name of the game when it comes to pitching. But that starts with keeping batters from even being able to get on base in the first place. And this is what the Brewers rotation has been absolutely elite at so far. They've had the 2nd lowest whip, or walks and hits per inning pitched, coming from the lowest batting average allowed in the league. Now, this isn't just them getting lucky either, because we know that not all hits are created equal, and the defense behind a pitcher can have a huge impact, which the Brewers do have a top 3-ish defense in baseball. These pitchers are doing their part as well to keep hitters from making the kind of contact that leads to a lot of hits, avoiding the barrel of the bat, and limiting both line drives and getting hit hard. You want to make your defense's job as easy as possible, and hard hit line drives this year have a 1.567 OPS and a 332 WRC+. So yeah, I'd say by keeping opposing hitters from being able to get behind the ball and drive it, you're not only keeping the guy at the plate from being able to get on base, but you're also making it tougher for guys that are already on base to move up, because they either have to make sure that a fly ball is going to drop before they can go, or a ground ball could potentially wipe out a couple base runners with a double play. And at the top of this rotation, the Brewers have their 3-headed monster in Corbin Burnes, Freddy Peralta, and Brandon Woodruff. And this trio could make any potential playoff series a nightmare for an opposing lineup. But how great these three have been and can be starts to lead us into some of the questions surrounding this team. At the top of this rotation is the 3-time All-Star and 2021 NL Cy Young winner in Corbin Burnes. 29 starts, going 179 innings with a 3.47 ERA, 3.90 FIP, and 4.06 SIERA. The prime example in this rotation of keeping hits from falling in with a 197 average allowed. But Burnes hasn't quite been the same caliber of pitcher this season, mainly when it comes to how well he's been able to dominate the strike zone. Both his strikeout and walk percentage are still better than average, but not to the same level that we've seen from him since he turned himself into a Cy Young caliber guy, where his strikeout percentage has been up above 30% the last 3 years, and his walk percentage has been under 6.5 the last 2. So at least this year, it looks like he isn't quite the same high-end pitcher that you can turn to just absolutely shut down any lineup in a critical playoff game. His number 2 for most of this season has been Peralta, a 2021 All-Star with 156 2/3 innings in 28 starts, a 3.79 ERA, 3.76 FIP, and 3.48 SIERA. This dude absolutely racks up Ks over 30% of the time and has continued to get the walks down. But he has given up more homers than your average pitcher this season, when he's usually been really good at this. 1 or 2 home runs at the worst possible moment could completely flip a game against you. So seeing this kind of uptick this year could be concerning going into a playoff series where you can't let a game get away from you like that because of 1 or 2 mistakes. but he has been much better about this during the second half. And finally, joining these guys again has been Woodruff, an all-star in 2019 and 2021, only making 9 starts this year. In 56 innings, he's got a 1.93 ERA, 3.53 FIP, and 3.44 SIERA. He has been all around great when he's been on the field this year. Another starter keeping the opposing lineup under a 200 average, so the Brewers are gonna need to keep him healthy here, coming off a strained shoulder that kept him out from April 4th to August 6th. But now something the Brewers pitchers as a whole need to improve on, because we see the same thing happening with the bullpen as well, is not being afraid to go in the zone a bit more. Mainly looking at the rotation here, they've been 24th in zone percentage and 23rd in getting swings outside the strike zone. And this isn't because they're missing their spots, because they've also had the 5th best location plus. So this is where these pitchers are aiming, is right on those edges to just outside the strike zone. And again, since we see a similar trend with the bullpen, it seems like this is more about the game plan that these pitchers have. But when you're out of the zone so often, a good, disciplined hitter is gonna pick up on this tendency, and they're not gonna give in and chase. Because as a hitter, if you know the pitcher has a tendency to go outside the strike zone, anything that's borderline, you're more inclined to just let that go and wait for a pitch that's a for sure strike, because you don't want to get caught chasing after a ball. And if he's just gonna paint the corner, then like, all right, tip your cap and I'm gonna get him this next pitch then. So then if you're swinging at more pitches that are catching more of the zone, instead of trying to hit those tough pitches on the edges, it's easier to make better contact. So when these starters do come in the zone, they've been giving up a lot of home runs. 21st in homers per 9 and 25th in homers per fly ball. If you even out your tendencies more of whether you're gonna challenge the hitter in the zone or try to get him to chase something, that makes the hitter have to guess way more on those borderline pitches, and that's where you make your money as a pitcher. So if the Brewers can make this adjustment, we could see their already impressive numbers get even better. And when it comes to this rotation, really, these starters just need to keep the game close and get it to the bullpen, which has been an absolute weapon for this team so far. 5th in ERA, 4th in ERA minus, and 8th in SIERA, this bullpen has been able to shut the door for Milwaukee. So if they can turn a game over to Hobie Milner, Joel Payamps, and the closer Devin Williams, they're in a pretty good spot. But getting to this point with the offense that the Brewers have had is the big question here. See, the Brewers have had one of the worst offenses in baseball, definitely of any contenders, 25th in OPS and 24th in WRC+, because simply they can't do much with the bats in their hands. This lineup hasn't been able to hit for contact or power. They've been 26th in average, 27th in slugging, and 24th in home runs. Really only getting offense out of 2 guys this season, Christian Yelich and William Contreras. Yelich in 136 games has hit .274, .363, .435 with 17 home runs, stole 27 bases, and has a .116 WRC+ and 3.5 fWAR. Then Contreras in 124 games is slashing .282, .358, .450 with 15 home runs, a .120 WRC+, and 4.4 fWAR. But outside of these two, they haven't had anyone else that's been above average in terms of WRC+ all season, with only Andrew Monasterio putting up an exactly average 100 WRC+ in his first 77 games, and Mark Canha's put up a 134 WRC+, but only in the 36 games since he joined this team at the trade deadline. Now there is good news though. This lineup is one of the most patient in baseball, and they'll definitely get their walks, which means that they're still going to be able to put runners on and potentially score runs, and they'll put themselves in good positions to get pitches to hit. But their swings need some serious work. They haven't been able at all to make good contact, one of the worst teams at barreling the ball up and driving it when they have taken their hacks. But with Brice Turang, Joey Wiemer, Owen Miller, Andrew Monasterio, Sal Frelick, and Blake Perkins all getting significant playing time, while all still being relatively young and inexperienced, they still have a lot of room to grow and turn things around. So for the Brewers, it's all gonna come down to how much this pitching staff, and mainly the rotation, can carry this team forwards. Can the starters and mainly their 3 guys at the top put them in a position to hand the game off to the bullpen to shut the door with very little run support? Or can this offense that's on the younger side start to figure it out and give these pitchers just that extra run that they need? The answers to these questions are gonna tell us how far this Brewers team can go this season. So comment below and let me know what you think about all this. How far can we expect Milwaukee to go, and what do they need to do to get there? If you enjoyed this video, again, please go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications to help the channel reach more baseball fans, and so that you don't miss out on any future baseball videos like this one. You can also help support the channel by checking out our merch store, link is down in the description, or simply by watching our latest video next that's on your screen now, about how the Astros might not have the same firepower that they've had during their stretch of dominance. And as always, thank you so much for watching and have an awesome day. Later.